through about We'll go through about 20 slides, giving you information about the University of Tulsa and the program, and then we'll stop sharing slides, and then the faculty will introduce themselves and say a little bit about their research, and then we'll do Q&A. So you've got a couple tools if you wish to remain anonymous. That's up to you. So you can click on the dots in the upper right-hand corner for your own personal screen. If you wanted to change your name and not have that visible, we'll leave that up to you. You can leave your camera off if you wish as well. Or you could just type questions in the chat. So whatever you're comfortable with, given that this is going to be recorded and available. But we hope that this will be a format where people can get their questions answered in their decision-making process. So welcome. I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Joanne Davis, who is our current Director of Clinical Training.
Thank you. I thought you were going to do all the intro and I would do the program specific.
Okay, sure. Yeah, this is our first time, so we're figuring this out. We have 12 faculty in the psychology department. And so this is just a screen capture of what you would see on our psychology department homepage. We just have our clinical faculty here, but we have faculty who are in the industrial organizational program. We have a master's and PhD program there. And then we also have faculty who are applied, who focus on undergraduate teaching and less so on research. So here's all the smiling faces. For the clinical program, everybody who is in the clinical program is here. So keep that in mind if you're considering our program and selecting faculty or writing in your essay who you'd like to work with. You should be thinking about the clinical faculty who you're meeting here today. So everyone who is recruiting students is listed on this slide, and you will get access to this slide. The QR code will take you directly to each of our labs, so you can learn more about that. I should mention Dr. Jamie Rudy is also taking a student, and he is not here today. He is I'm not sure the exact term, like an affiliated faculty with the University of Tulsa. He's at the University of Oklahoma Health Sciences Center. So we do have students in our program who have 2 advisors, one in an outside program like OUHSC or the Laureate Institute of Brain Research, and then a co-advisor in the psychology department. So you'll get more information about this towards the end, but then you can also follow up with information from our websites. And oops, I went in the wrong direction. Okay, so Dr. D.
Thank you. And I'm not sure that I can switch the slides. I don't think I can, so I'll just say switch slides when I'm ready. So welcome, everybody. I'm Dr. Joanne Davis. I am the director of the clinical program. We are really happy to see everybody here. Thank you so much for joining us. And as Dr. Cromer said, this is our first go around. So please pardon any additional technical glitches or whatnot that happened today. But we're giving it a whirl. So we have had a psychology program at the University of Tulsa since 1933. The clinical program began in 1987. We have been accredited since 1991 through the American Psychological Association, and we are currently fully accredited through the year 2030, which is very exciting. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the psychology department holds a unique place at the university. We are held in high regard both within the university and the community at large in terms of our scholarships, the clinical training that we provide, and the mental health services that we provide to the community through that clinical training. We are well known for community service. Most of the faculty is very integrated into the community in a lot of different ways, which brings about exciting opportunities for our graduate students, and known as advocates in a lot of different realms as well. Next slide. Tulsa is actually a cool place to live. You may not have recognized that or knew that before now. We have about 400,000 residents in greater Tulsa area. We have a lot of unique aspects to Tulsa, including the gathering place. If you don't know what that is, look it up online. It's pretty cool. Turkey Mountain, which it's not really a mountain. It's like a big hill, but we call it Turkey Mountain. We have the Oxley Nature Center. We have the best Oktoberfest. I guess it was awarded that officially in 2024. I don't think that's the first year that it's been awarded that. I think we've gotten that designation in the past, but we have just a lot of different really unique things about Tulsa, and happy to answer questions about the area and what it's like to live here during the question and answer period. Next slide. So the goal of the program, and we have a master's program and a PhD program. The goal of the program is to train professionally competent clinical psychologists with a broad background in the field of psychology who can apply psychological theory, assessment, research methodology, and clinical skill to complex problems. Next slide. A couple of different, wanted to give you just like a bird's eye perspective of the two programs that we have. So we have a terminal master's degree. In the first year of the master's degree, the focus is on taking classes. In the spring, you start at our in-house training clinic, True Blue Neighbors Behavioral Health Clinic. You start in the spring with a pre-practicum experience. You start in full at the clinic after the first year of classes in that summer. And then in year 2, you continue working at our in-house clinic, taking classes. And then there shouldn't be what it says there, the optional independent study. Next slide. We have a couple of milestones for the doctoral program. We have what we call a pre-candidacy project, which is similar to a master's thesis. However, there's not a committee, it's just you and your advisor. And people do work on this pre-candidacy project usually for the first 2 years of the program. And then we have a research day where the students present their research to the full student body and the faculty as well. We also have 2 comprehensive exams, one written and one oral, and then the dissertation. And in the clinical program at the doctoral level, all students are required to go on a 1-year internship, as is the case with all APA accredited programs. For the PhD program, just bird's eye perspective again, first year, focusing on classes, adding the pre-practicum experience in the spring, and starting at our in-house training clinic in the summer. In the second year, it is the training clinic, working in the lab, taking classes, doing the pre-candidacy project. The third year is when you will take your oral and written comprehensive exams. You will still have at least one client at the clinic. And then you also start external practicum. So going out into the community to get additional experience with other kinds of populations, other kinds of clinical training. And usually people start working on their dissertation in their third year. In the fourth year, the focus is largely on the dissertation and finishing up any classes that are remaining. And people get the opportunity to start to specialize in their practicum training or to get additional generalist training. And then usually in your fifth year, you're applying for internship, going on internship and graduating.
And I'll add, so we've got 5th, 6th, 7th year, because sometimes people do end up staying a little bit longer. If people are coming in with a master's degree, they sometimes will finish in 4 years. So you work with the director of clinical training and your faculty advisor to work that out. But the modal number of years in the program is 5 years.
6 with internship. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And then it also depends on your training goals, what you're to get out of that. Thank you.
Absolutely. So really individualized for sure.
So we offer a number of different types of assistantships, which I'll talk about in a minute. Some of these are 12-month and some are 9 months. So it's important to think about what summers will look like for you, depending on the type of assistantship that you have. Everybody, at least in the first summer, after their first year, will be working in the clinic. So it's important to think about when you take vacations. So the clinic is closed the week between spring and summer, and then the week between summer and fall. So that's usually a good time to take vacations. If you are planning on taking classes over the summer, you want to think about sources of summer income and tuition. We do not charge tuition for the summer practicum class, and there are actually very few courses that are offered over the summer, at least in the recent years. But that gives you a lot of time to do other things like clinical work, research, and manuscript writing. So APA requires that we provide training and evaluation in a number of different areas, and it's split into two basic areas, one being discipline-specific knowledge, and we have all of the different areas that APA requires that we offer either courses or some sort of training experience in those. The only one that is a little bit different is history and systems. So if you've taken a history of psychology class at the undergraduate level and earned a B or an A, you can petition our program to not have to do that requirement at the graduate level. Next slide. And then the second part of the APA requirements are the profession-wide competencies. And you can see all the different areas on this slide that we provide training in and do evaluations of for students. So I mentioned funding. We have been successful in funding 100% of our graduate doctoral students over, I usually say the last decade. I actually think it's a little bit longer than that. But we've done a really good job of doing that. And when you have an assistantship coming in, you're guaranteed that for 4 years. We generally are able to fund students beyond that, but minimum of 4 years. And these assistantships can look like a lot of different things. So we have departmental assistantships that usually the student works as a lab manager in somebody's research lab. We have faculty who can support students on grants or other kinds of research positions. We have 2 clinical positions at the in-house training clinic that are available to students after their second year. And this is for in the school system. There's actually 3 in the school system. And Jenks is a public school system in the area, and students who are GAs at Jenks get a lot of experience doing psychological assessment for children, usually at the elementary level. There's also a couple of different fellowships. We have had a number of students have fellowships through the National Science Foundation. We also have a teaching fellowship that's available within our program if that's of interest to you. And then oftentimes there are assistantships that become available at different offices around the university. So those are the administrative assistantships.
And I'll just add, the teaching assistantship, you're actually teaching your own class. And so the student has 2 sections, usually 2 sections of the same class that they teach in one semester, and then they teach a different class in 2 sections of that other class in the second semester. So it's a really good opportunity for building a resume for people who are academically bound.
Absolutely. There's a couple of other funding options available through the graduate school, including the Dissertation Completion Fellowship. So when you are close to proposing your dissertation, this might be an option for you. It is competitive, but it provides funding for an entire year And I think the stipend is higher than our other assistantship stipends. The graduate school and the Graduate Student Association and the department also offer funds for traveling to conferences. And that's one of the expectations of the program, is that not only will you be consuming research and producing research, but you'll also be disseminating research at conferences. And there's a number of other student grant opportunities available as well. In terms of, so if you don't know, when you get done with the graduate program, before you get licensed, you will need to take what's called the EPPP, which is a national psychology examination. And so all clinical doctoral students need to take this at some point, and when you take it can depend on the state that you're planning to be licensed in. In Oklahoma, you can't take it until after you have finished all of your other requirements for the degree and are applying for licensure. But we have had 100% pass rate. Our students tend to do very, very well on the EPPP. We also have had for years and years 100% match rate for students who are applying for and then going on internship.
You may notice on our website that we have an interdisciplinary trauma institute called Titan. And so sometimes people will write in essays that they want to work with Titan. Titan has a variety of different faculty, and some of us, Dr. Newman, Dr. Davis, and I, are co-directors of Titan. When you are applying to our program, it's actually the individual labs that you're applying to work on. But then Titan has opportunities to work across disciplines in trauma research. We've got existing data sets that students can do secondary data analysis on. We run clinical trials through Titan, and there's other opportunities for collaboration in the community. So I just wanted to have that extra slide in here for that clarification, because I know sometimes that's confusing for people of, wait, what is Titan compared to the other labs? So in terms of the application process, the application due date is December 1st, and you apply through the graduate school portal. So after you submit your application, and we hope that you will, you'll be asked to upload some documents. So you'll need 3 letters of recommendation. It's suggested that those letters of recommendation, or at least 1 or 2 of those, are from somebody who is a psychologist, somebody holding a PhD. It's fine if you have another letter of reference from somebody that you've worked for, but it's really helpful for us in terms of letters of recommendation that can speak to your academic preparedness, for especially if you're applying for a doctoral program. So keep that in mind when you're selecting those letters. You want to have a curriculum vitae, that is an academic resume. You'll write a statement of purpose, you'll provide transcripts and GRE scores. You may provide an optional writing sample, it's not required. It's appreciated if you decide to include a writing sample, maybe a paper from a class, or if you've had the opportunity to co-author something. It's helpful for us to see something you personally have authored, so keep that in mind. In terms of your statement of purpose, that is probably going to be about what why you want to go into graduate school, but we really want to encourage you to personalize it, to let the individual faculty know who you want to work with, what it is about their work that is attracting you to apply to work in their labs. That really helps us in terms of match. There's lots of resources online. APA has wonderful resources for how to apply successfully to graduate school. But so I really want to encourage you to get some guidance in terms of writing those statements of purpose as well. In terms of the GRE scores, our program allows you to request a waiver. So our graduate school generally requires GRE scores for all graduate programs. So you will be prompted for that. But if you, there should be a button or option to ask to waive the GRE score. If you would like to put that request in, you absolutely may do that when you're submitting your application. And we are very, very pleased to consider your application, even without those GRE scores. Also, by attending today, there is a $60 fee when you're applying, and you will get a fee waiver. So please scan this QR code. And Sydney Haskin, who is here, she is a graduate student in my lab. She'll be emailing all of you a PDF of these slides as well. So you'll have the QR codes in those slides. And so you can use that to get access to the fee waiver registration form. So when you submit your application, it's going to ask you for a fee. Don't pay the fee. This isn't a pay and get reimbursed thing. This is a don't pay the fee. And then behind the scenes, the graduate school will manage the fee waiver there. Did I go in the wrong direction, or is that there again? Let's see. So, the admissions process, that's what this is. So your application's due December 1st. We will contact interviewees mid to late December, and then we will do a virtual interview day. Everything is going to be will be on Zoom on Friday, February 14th. So if you decide to apply, pencil in February 14th, because that's a full day. You'll have breaks throughout the day, but it's where you'll have interviews, but you'll also get a chance to learn a lot more about our program, get virtual tours and things like that. We make offers fairly soon after the virtual interview day, and we will be providing some support for students to come to campus. So if you receive an offer, we're going to do a campus visiting day on March 7th. So it'd be great if you'd pencil in that date as well. And so we will help with some flights and accommodations and things like that for students visiting campus. And I say we, the graduate school, helps with all of that. Dr. Davis, do you want to add anything to the admissions process?
No, other than to say I give out GRE waivers like candy, so don't hesitate to ask for one.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of contact after January 1st, Dr. Davis is going on a much deserved sabbatical. So I'll be serving as director of clinical program while she's on sabbatical. So if there's communication needed with DCT, that'll actually be me that you'll have that communication with starting in January and probably through part of December as we work on the transition. So we will take questions in just a second. I think what I'll do now is stop this screen share so you can see bigger versions of us. And I'll go around the room and ask faculty to introduce themselves and say a little bit about your research. I think I'll go alphabetically if that's okay with everyone. Hopefully I manage that fine. So I'll start with Dr. Abhishan Ensley, if she will please.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. So good afternoon. My name is Nikki Abhishan Ensley. I'm an associate professor in the clinical program. My research is really related to perinatal health with a few different methodologies mixed in there. So I'm really interested in biopsychosocial factors that link women's health around pregnancy to long-term broader women's health outcomes, as well as infant development, largely within communities that are under-resourced or with people who are at risk for health inequities. Let's see, what else do I want to say? Yeah, I think that sort of captures things. That's generally what my work includes.
Thank you. And Dr. Davis.
There we go. So I have two lines of research in my lab. One is looking at the consequences of trauma exposure to include sleep problems and post-traumatic stress disorder, and doing clinical trials for treating those conditions in individuals. And the other line of research is in interpersonal violence. And I do a number of different types of more survey-based research in that area.
Great, thank you. Dr. Newman.
Sorry, it took me a minute to get to my mute button. Hi, everybody. I'm so glad you're here. I am also TU is unique in that we have 3 trauma researchers, and I'm one of them. I study a lot of different things throughout my career related to trauma, but my specialty right now is on trauma and journalism. And we haven't thought about journalists as a group that's under occupational stress. And I really do a lot of research on the mental health of journalists, also on how news is received about trauma by the public. And we're doing a lot of social psych experimental research in my lab right now. And those are the 2 major activities I would say in my lab: focus on occupational health of journalists, PTSD, trauma response, moral injury, and concepts like that. I continue to do work outside the lab on disaster mental health, and I'm very active in trauma training more generally. Just got the APA trauma competencies approved, and I am on the APA PTSD guideline update. So I stay very involved in treatment issues related to trauma for training purposes. And I'm so glad you're all here.
Thanks, Dr. Newman. Dr. Suzuki.
Hello, thank you for making this informational meeting. So my name is Taka Suzuki. I'm an assistant professor. This is my second year here at TU. My research is pretty broad. I use a transdiagnostic dimensional approach looking at broad range of diagnoses. My background is primarily in personality disorders, schizophrenia, psychosis spectrum disorders. I'm also use electroencephalogram as a way to understand brain activities. My research within the transdiagnostic approach centers around this particular ability to adapt to an environment called cognitive control executive functioning, and quantifying that using brain activities reflecting EEG. And partly my background is in psychometrics. I'm trying to understand EEG measures. How are they useful as an individual differences indicators like personality psychopathology? How do they relate to things? I follow up some of the participants with ecological momentary assessment using cell phone surveys. So those are some things that I'm focusing on. So my interest is pretty broad. It's probably centered around methodology, but so that's my research.
Thank you, Dr. Suzuki. And does Dr. Suzuki or Dr. Davis, you both have co-advised or do co-advise with Dr. Rudy. Do either of you feel comfortable saying a few words about his research?
So Dr. Rudy studies pain and the emotional mediators of pain processing, I think. And he has in the past number of years been focusing his research on the Native American population. So he looks at different things that will impact to what degree people experience pain.
Great, thank you very much. And I guess I should probably tell you what I do as well. So I have 2 arms of research. I study nightmare treatment in children ages 6 to 17. We've recently published an efficacy study, and what my current grant is looking at the relationship between nightmares and suicidality. And we're investigating whether improvements in nightmares results in a decrease in suicidal thinking and behavior. We did a small pilot study and it had some really positive results where we had 5 in our treatment group and 5 in our waitlist group, and ended up finding that only 1 in the treatment and 4 in the waitlist group the post condition still showed suicidality. So we're continuing that investigation, and I've got students starting to do research on cultural idioms of nightmares. And so we're looking at this in a few different populations. I am so excited. It's so interesting. We just had a presentation this week in our lab on representation of nightmares in Islam. Really fascinating stuff. And so we're looking at ways of adapting the treatment for a variety of different cultures. And so I'm really interested in finding students who would be interested in looking at some cultural adaptations. The second arm of research is historical trauma. And so not to be confused with the intergenerational transmission of trauma. So I've had a few students who've been studying historical trauma. I really focus on historical trauma theory and then support students studying historical trauma in their own communities. And so we've got and there's more information of the specific projects on the website. So I'm interested in students who are interested in either or both of those. So that's us. Now